Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Payson. Welcome back to all the subscribers to the MMA Fancast YouTube channel. And if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can see this one and all the other great interviews we have. Today we have joining the show a returning guest on the show and a member of the upcoming 247 Fighting Championship Brawl in the Burgh 19 event card, Elijah Davis. Elijah, welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure being back. Thank you so much, Luke.
Always having you on the show. I've been able to cover you since the beginning of your MMA career. This is, and every fight should be this way. This is the biggest fight of your amateur MMA career to date. And of course, every fight should build. It's one of the great things with the legendary Jim Mooney. And any good matchmaker looks to build, on your record and on your career. You are 3-1, taking on Jimmy Phadphom. We're pretty sure that's how we say his name. Jimmy Phadphom, who's 4-1. So let's start there. Why say yes to this opponent? And of course, the December 16th. We're just under 2 weeks away.
This is definitely a great matchup for me stylistically, and also as far as getting my name a little bit further out there, as he's come from a pretty good gym, Demolition Fight Team. They got some guys over there who've been progressing pretty well and made it to the higher levels. And getting the win with Jimmy will be a good mark for me, and I'm excited to meet him in the cage. And his style, I think, will be good for me to match up against. It's a good opportunity for me to stay patient and use my skills and kind of finally unleash the Elijah Davis that I've been wanting to show everybody out in the cage. So I'm just really excited and anticipating this night.
Yeah, this matchup, I know there's multiple. I was trying to remember the exact number. There's several advanced amateur fights on this card, which is a bit of a fun thing. It's a bit of a rarity to have multiple advanced amateurs. I think it's somewhere between 3 and 5 advanced amateurs fight. Many advanced amateur fights. I know you had fought 3 fights for 247. Then you took a fight outside of 247. Now you're back, which is great. Was that fight outside the live fights? Was that advanced amateur, or were you still novice for that fight?
Well, it was just a slightly different rule set because it was in West Virginia, so I was able to, ground and pound to the face, and then a few other like there head kicks allowed. So for here, I guess it will be considered advanced amateur, but I'm not sure what they would call it. Like for them in West Virginia, I think they just called it, amateur.
Called amateur, yeah, and advanced amateur is going to be really great. I think that's one of the reasons why it's great to see somebody like you who debuted against Joe LaRocca, who was also a debut, and he's stayed around 247. You've stayed around 247. It's really great to see fighters develop within 247. And advanced amateur, for those that don't know, in Pennsylvania, it's 3 3-minute rounds, no head kicks, no elbows, but ground and pound with punches. The longer rounds, and visually the biggest thing that people pick up on is the fact that you won't be wearing shin guards, which to a lot of people make it look like a pro fight, which is probably part of it, right? It's advancing the skill set, no shin guards, which makes submissions a little easier and of course makes kicks and things like that more powerful. Elijah, you mentioned that you think his style is going to bring the best out in you. What about his style? Is he known? Obviously, he has 4-1. He has 5 amateur fights. Is he known as a grappler, as a striker? What about him do you think is going to bring out your best?
He's got a fairly decent mix, but something about him is I noticed he throws a lot of wild, aggressive, high volume strikes. And from what I've been training with my coach, Chris Williams, and at the Mat Factory about staying tight, I've got a lot better at my striking techniques and just staying down the line. And when I'm focused and calm, I'm the best. So this will be a good, like I said, a good chance for me to get into that fire and stay calm. I kind of had that with Jay LaRocca in our first fight. I don't know if you remember that, but I didn't perform the way that I really wanted to, and I think that this, after having 4 fights in the cage, getting a little bit more comfortable each time, this will be finally my opportunity to really, really show things that I've been working on and not, fighting, just, off of little instincts.
You're right. There's a development. A fight is still a fight, but the sport part of MMA means that it can't be just all aggression. Of course, there's no real anger, but it can't just all be aggression, anger, and instincts. It's more surgical. You mentioned training at the Mat Factory. That's a big deal. One of the best gyms in the area. There's some great gyms in the Pittsburgh area. The Mat Factory being a big one. You mentioned Coach Chris Williams for boxing. Did you come in with any type of wrestling background, or has this all been kind of built up through the Mat Factory since the time you've been there?
No, I've wrestled since a kid, like 6 years old, and then through high school, I made some decisions that kind of took me away from the sport, but with the Mat Factory brought me back, and I decided, hey, you're 25 years old, do MMA now, so that's where I'm at with it, and it's slightly feeling, more and more like something that's just for me. So
Yeah.
great to have Isaac, who's obviously a wrestling standout, able to nurture pretty much anybody's skill set, let alone another wrestler. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because for the Mat Factory under Coach Isaac Greeley, who's not only a Hall of Famer wrestler from Indiana.
He wrestled for UPJ actually.
UPJ. Oh man, I apologize, Coach UPJ. And I was close. They're not going to think, but I was close. Yeah, yeah. But he's also a 247 fighting championship Hall of Famer as a coach. And then, of course, he competed at Brawl. I've met him many times. He's not only great as a coach, it's a big part. You mentioned, your maturity, finding the gym at 25, kind of making better life decisions, those type things. How much of a blessing is it to have Coach Isaac Greeley as a mentor and as a role model? Because I've heard a lot of great things about that too. Sometimes coaches just think it's a matter of coaching, but coaching is also a matter of helping person to person. It's a very personal thing, and maturity is a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at me. I'm a father. He's a father. I don't have as many role models to look up to, and it's a blessing to have Isaac know what that's like as well. It's like he has so many titles and labels. It's like it's just a blessing that he performs the way he does throughout all those titles, and is that example for everybody. And yeah, I have my own struggles as a man, and Isaac's is pretty sturdy and able to be understanding. He doesn't really judge people for what they might go through, and that's the great thing as a fighter. I mean, we carry our home life into the cage, no matter how much we try to leave out of it. You could tell when somebody might have had a bad day by how they're performing in the game. That's just how it is. And if you're able to bring everything to a good like full spectrum of health, it'll definitely benefit you for your fight game, obviously.
Yeah, incredibly well said. And obviously, congratulations on the progress and decisions you've been making in your life. That's wonderful. And being a father, that's even more important, obviously, than what you do in the cage. And being a great father is gonna kind of strengthen your career no matter what you do, regardless of whether or not it's MMA or not. Speaking now, since you're 28, you started in MMA at the Mat Factory about 3 years ago. You made your debut at in 2022, so really still fairly fairly recently to be going in to what is your fifth fight, starting in May of 2022, and now here we are, December of 2023. So is this the about the clip you've wanted to be on? What would you reflect on the last year and a half going from training to getting in there now 4 times, soon going to be 5? Have you seen the development? Do you like kind of the trajectory you're on? And what's that overall ride been like? And then we'll preview this fight coming up.
Looking back, I'll always be appreciative and grateful for every step in this journey. The good, bad, everything is a lesson, if not just for yourself, but for somebody in the future who might be going through something. So, even in some ways, I might feel like I've made slower progress than I would have liked. I feel like in ways that I might not know yet, I've learned things that I'll be able to help, other people who, come in cross paths with me later in life. So I'm thankful for that. Maybe certain ways I wish I would linked up with Chris Williams a little bit sooner, and I would have, that would have changed my trajectory a little bit. But like I said, I'm thankful for how things went and the relationships that I'm developing with them now. And I wanted to fight, at least another fight this year for 2023. I had a lot of canceled bouts, throughout the year, which is understandable. Thankfully not on my end. I can't really blame people. People get injured, things happen, whatever. So I've been able to stay optimistic through that and just, wait for my moment and be there with my teammates. I think that we should all fall in love with training before we fall in love with the lights, cameras, and all that stuff before, because that's where you'll fail. You know what I mean? If you fall in love with just, the glitz and the glamour and you don't want to show up to practice, you're gonna get rocked in the cage. So I hang on to those thoughts and my son, what I'm doing it for, and knowing that this is a better lifestyle than other things that I've come from, and I'm happy.
I'm
I'm
glad you're
not
happy.
completely content, but I'm
Yeah.
happy.
Well, and continue to push for progress. This is your second fight in 2023, and I see that you fought 3 times in 2022. So it would make sense that you kind of like that 3 or 4 fight a year mindset. Didn't happen this year. Under 2 weeks away from the big Brawl in the Burgh 19 card for 247 Fighting Championships at Monroeville Convention Center. When you mentioned kind of your trajectory, getting with Coach Chris, cross training, training at the Mat Factory. What's cool here is because you're going up against a guy who is, 1 fight record better. He's 4-1, you're 3-1. But at amateur, that's both very experienced, both high level. You don't get to where you are at 3-1 or he is at 4-1 with taking it lightly or not training. So you're going up against a very well coached, you even mentioned the gym fighter. To me, this is a great test with, even though you haven't fought as often in 2023 as you'd want, this is a great level test because you go in there, you put on a show, you beat Jimmy, your level goes up more, right? Because it didn't matter that you only fought twice this year. You took on a guy with a better record and a lot of experience from a great gym. You have a great record from a great gym as well, and really that's where a lot of progress can be made. So for you, are you predicting a certain thing about this fight without giving anything away, or would you like to just kind of say kind of what you think is going to be entertaining for the crowd? Talk a little bit about the Mat Factory kind of always having a big presence at the 247 cards, and of course, I always remind people to buy tickets from you, the Mat Factory. At this point, 247's been announcing that tickets are selling out in certain categories. There's still tickets available though, and it really does help the fighters to buy tickets. So kind of talk a little bit about your thoughts about this fight particularly, and then also fighting in front of what is a hometown crowd and the crowd pop that you get from the Mat Factory. Well, it looks like we might be having technical difficulties, so that question may not be answered by Elijah. I'm just going to wait to see if he pops back on here. If not, it was still pretty good of an interview. Always unfortunate. That was going to be my last question. So if we don't hear from that, I'm sure Elijah and his opponent are going to want to put on an entertaining bout. From the 10 fights that have been announced for 247 Fighting Championships, they're all incredible. I mentioned the high number and high level of advanced amateur, plus all the way from novice to advanced to pro fights. The main event is incredible with Justin, the General Patton, coming on it also from the Mat Factory. Great that Elijah Davis is a teammate. It's just wonderful when you think about things like that and how involved Coach Isaac Greeley. And then when you think about the academy with another great Pittsburgh gym, the academy with the Death Star, and then another gym in Mike Williams in Stout. Those 3 gyms plus Gorilla House with the champ in Ethan the Wolverine Goss. There's so much great talent. I'm even missing some other gyms. The shop, many other gyms are represented either in the past or present going future. Doesn't seem like Elijah's coming back on. That was too good of an interview to not want to post anyhow. So thank you for tuning in to Luke Payson for MMA Fancast with returning guest of the show, Elijah Davis. Best skills to him, his opponent, and everybody fighting for 247 Fighting Championships. Brawl in the Burgh, December 16th, just under 2 weeks away. Time to get your tickets before they sell out. Really need to do that now, 247fighting.com. If you're doing pay-per-view on either 247fighting.com or 247 Live app, which is now Android and iOS, make sure you give a fighter, Elijah Davis, or another fighter credit. Special thanks for him coming on the show. Thank you, everyone, for following MMA Fancast, and everyone have a great night.